For years, I have been silently observing Germans, and this is a few of my most interesting findings. Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie, and along with my wife Aubrey, we are two Americans currently living in Germany and sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. When we first started making videos, we would sometimes end up saying some things that we had no rationale behind, random facts others had told us, or had no statistics to back our claims up. And those things ended up haunting us for years after we published them on the internet.
Speaking of showers, a lot of Europeans do not take showers, they just take baths.
Well, we've tried our best to learn from this, and therefore now we like to do tons of research to find data that supports what we talk about in our videos and find reasons behind what we observe. But today's themes, we haven't done that. And that is because these are general random observations of things Germans do that have been reoccurring themes in the nearly 3 years of living in Germany that may not have any real explanations and may just be random things that we, as two random Americans from Oklahoma, have found surprising. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today in our video. 4 observations of the German populations. So I've already given our first disclaimer that these are our observations from our personal experiences living in Germany that were not part of anything anybody else has said or are parts of classic stereotypes of Germans that we are aware of. Also, like I briefly mentioned, we are originally from a state in the southern US called Oklahoma and now live in the southwestern German state of Rheinland-Pfalz. Both of these places have their own unique subcultures that may not be representative of the two countries as a whole, and this has given us a unique perspective on the world that you may not share. Therefore, let me know your individual experiences with these things in the comments below, or if you have ever noticed the same things, and let us know where you are from. Also, if you are from a different country than these two, we want to hear about what these things are like where you live. And let's just remember, just because one place does something one way and another place does something another way doesn't always mean there are rights and wrongs, maybe just simply different ways of doing things. One of the first random observations I have for you is that Germans seem to be much more willing to ask for directions than Americans are. When I think back to living in the US and times I was asked for directions somewhere, truly only one time comes to mind. I have a very vivid memory of one time when I was in college walking across campus and a car pulled up beside me to ask how to get to a particular building. Now, I'm sure there have been more times than just this one instance, but this is all I can vividly remember, and I think part of that is due to the fact how out of the norm it was for this to happen. However, in the short 3 years that we have lived in Germany compared to the 26 I lived in the US, I can think of at least 5 to 8 times that we have been asked for directions by strangers. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but when I'm looking at getting asked for directions at least 2 to 3 times a year in Germany versus once every 26 years in the US, it certainly has felt like a lot. Now, if I were to just guess as to reasons for this, well, I can't really exactly say that Germans in general are more willing to ask for directions, and for example, of the times we have been stopped and asked for directions, only once that I can think of has it been by a man, and Germany has the exact same stereotypes and jokes about men not wanting to ask for directions like the US has. A second thought and observation is that Germans are much more averse to digitalization as Americans, and maybe they don't use their GPS on their phone as much as they would just ask a person. But honestly, yes, Germans are slower to digitalize than Americans, but I do know that Germans obviously use technology for navigating. But then again, Germans did, for the most part, block Google Street View in Germany, so maybe it is harder to find things in Germany online than in the US, so they do rely on people's directions more. My final thought that I actually think is the most likely answer would actually undermine the theory that Americans are less willing to ask for directions than Germans. It has been when we have been out walking around, and that actually this is less of a willingness observation, but rather an availability mobility question. Because in fact, we have observed that Germans are out walking at a much higher rate than Americans, and they do so everywhere. Whereas in our part of the US, we did go on walks, but mainly just around our neighborhood. If we were in town, we would have to drive to get somewhere, pull up to the building and walk in, and then directly back to our car to head home. I believe this leaves less time for possibilities of someone being able to stop someone and ask for directions, whereas in Germany, there is almost always people out and about who are available for some quick directional guidance if required. When we first moved here, we arrived during the summer, and summer of course means swimming. We went swimming a few times and noticed a very big difference immediately between how Americans and Germans swim that we have seen over and over and over again every summer since living here, and that is old women wearing bikinis. In the US, sure, you'll find the random older woman here and there wearing a bikini, but overall, I would generally say that a bikini is thought of a younger woman's swimsuit style or sported by very confident middle-aged women, and at some point in their lives, women as they age tend to gravitate to one-piece swimsuits so they are a little more covered up. However, in Germany, we see old women wearing bikinis all the time, and it definitely seems there isn't this age divide of younger girls wearing bikinis and older women wearing one pieces nearly at the rate as in the US. Now, I feel I would be wise as a man to say that I'm not going to get myself in trouble by advocating either way, so I am not going there. But I will say that Aubrey and I have definitely observed how much more confident people are in their own skin in Germany versus in the US, where it seems a lot more people have body image issues. We believe that older women in Germany wearing bikinis seems to be one indicator of that, and having more positive self-image is absolutely a great thing. However, this is an extremely deep topic that I am not going to get into beyond this very surface level cultural difference observation. Really, I think that anybody should wear whatever they feel comfortable wearing, and none of us should care. If a woman feels more comfortable in a one piece, awesome. No problems with that. But if a woman feels more comfortable in a bikini, awesome as well. We just want everybody to feel comfortable being themselves, and I do think this is something that Germany does seem to do a little bit better at the moment. Now, there is also the male equivalent swimsuit that is notorious in Europe, and Americans joke about Europeans wearing quite a bit because of how unusual they are to see on our side of the pond, and that is Speedos. And I honestly have to say that in Germany, we do see a lot less Speedos than Americans would expect would be around a European pool, and a lot of German men wear the exact same swimsuits Americans would wear more regularly. However, we do of course see a few more Speedos here, and for the Germans watching, this brings me to the sponsor of today's video, manscaped.com. Men, body hair is prone to sweat, dirt, and other gross stuff that can breed bacteria and make you feel less confident. Using the Lawnmower 4.0 to maintain all your body hair and the Weed Whacker to control your nose and ear hair can help keep you healthier and cleaner and confidenter. Included in this pack is also their Crop Preserver for all-day odor protection and Crop Reviver to quickly soothe and refresh whatever area you need it in. You can get 20% off plus free shipping and these 2 free gifts when you use my code PASSPORT at manscaped.com. Okay, let's go into sports. Kind of. But I don't even want to mention the word football and soccer because we've had this heated debate about the name in the comments on too many videos before, but they do play a key role in another one of my observations of Germans, and that is they kind of suck at throwing things. Now, before anybody gets upset at me for condemning their arm flinging skills, on the flip side of that, Americans kind of suck at kicking things, and I think I figured out why. When I was in college, I did a study abroad program where I lived with a German family in Bonn, Germany. I remember one sunny day, me and a few other students were laying out on the Hofgarten in front of the Kurfürstliches Schloss when a group of German university students were hanging out and brought an American football along with them. The other Americans and I sat watching them for a minute while the German guys tried to hopelessly throw the football around without much success. So we hopped up and went over to teach them how to throw the awkwardly shaped ball, as we were all obviously much more well versed in how to do so based on exposure to the sport growing up. This was my first of many experiences of seeing Germans try and throw objects, and it just has never quite looked right. Now, I'll give you this. That is an extremely awkward ball to throw, and if you don't grow up learning how to do it, it really is hard to figure out how to properly throw it. However, I have observed Germans for years now as they pick up a rock to throw in a pond, a ball to throw for their dog, or plastic into the plastic recycling bin. Actually, they are really good at recycling. But no matter what it is being thrown, most of the time when I see a German throw, their form just looks like someone who doesn't quite know exactly what to do with their body. But again, this is not a critique on Germans at all, and like I mentioned, Americans generally are really bad at kicking things. I mean, let's just look at the US record for the World Cup, and those are supposed to be the professionals at kicking things. But that is exactly my reasoning for this lack of abilities in both countries. I think that if we look at the top sports in the US, they are predominantly throwing sports, and in Germany, soccer, Fußball is king. Handball is also wildly popular in Germany, but nowhere near on the level of soccer, and based on my observations, not enough so to affect the throwing skills of this nation. So what do we all practice our whole lives in the backyard with our friends growing up? Americans throw things and Germans kick things, leading to one nation that looks like baby deer trying to walk as they kick things, and one nation looking like they have wet noodles for arms as they try to throw things. Hey guys, I am currently editing this video and I just realized a huge mistake I made when I wrote and filmed this video, and maybe some of you guys have already noticed, and that is that I am only considering men's sports and athletics, and actually I completely forgot about, for example, the US women's soccer team, which is dominant on the world stage, and their World Cup record is significantly better than the US men's World Cup record. So that alone may completely make my entire theory just go to waste, but I want to make sure that you guys knew I did think about that later, and I do acknowledge that the US women's soccer team is really, really good. As a random question on this theme, if you are American, what is your favorite non-throwing sport? And if you are German, what is your favorite non-kicking sport? When it comes to food in Germany, man, do we love some German food. In particular, sure, the schnitzels and the sausages are amazing, but where are my fellow Pelzish people at? A Saumagen? Come on! That is something that I didn't know existed before moving here that now I cannot get enough of. But this isn't the point of this section of the video, but what I wanted to talk about is food related, and that is how Germans drown their salads in salad dressing. Now again, I don't know if this is like a thing that Germans are kind of known for, or if it is just based on the US's standards of leafy greens to dressing ratio that we are used to, but we have never not had a salad in Germany in the years and years of living and traveling here that aren't just swimming in dressing. I will say that even with this tendency, we still for the most part have always enjoyed the salads that we receive in restaurants in Germany, but for us, it has become this inside joke that no matter what part of the country we are in, after eating the vegetable parts, we are left with pools of dressing on our plate, unlike an American plate, which would be dry for the most part. So I would be interested in knowing from you guys, is this the thing that Germans are known for, or at least something other Americans in Germany have noticed? Or what about Germans? Let's keep in mind that this is somewhat relative, so if you grew up in Germany and are used to it, maybe it won't seem like a lot of dressing to you, but rather what it's just supposed to be like. But if you travel to the US, maybe did you notice that it seems like Americans are skimping on their dressing from what you are used to? To see who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is Schnick, Schnack, Schnuck, or Schere, Stein, Papier? What do you call this popular children's game? Thanks so much for watching, guys. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and we will see you in our next video. And I think that it is partially due to the fact how using the lawnmower 4.0